fashion is never outdated. The patterns can change, but people always want to wear clothes, people always want to wear shoes, people always want to have handbags, ties, headscarves, and everybody wants to be on the trend. And everybody looks to get the most trendy. So the brands have never changed, and the brands keep growing. And each brand tries to compete with the other. So we looked into this industry, and we realized that in Africa, we have the cotton, which is the original fabric, the original material. But we are less in the talk and we are less in the money market. That it is a sector which has a huge potential, where we have to be able to lay emphasis on to see how we can work with those who are in the industry to empower them to make money for our economies, to make money for ourselves and develop ourselves. So we organized the ACC Economic Day last year held at the Hilton, where we brought in the agribusiness actors. And we were looking into the agro industry, the agribusiness, agripreneurs. And at the resolutions that when we took resolutions, we observed that cotton is one of those grains, those plants, that has a lot of virtues and that can be used in very diverse products. And so we decided that in those resolutions, we'll look at a sector of activity in the agribusiness that spreads into industry and various different kinds of activities. And so that the value chain can be such that will feed many people, provide many jobs, attract the youth very much, and actually give more women the opportunity to make money out of the activity that they make. Cotton is grown in the northern parts of Cameroon. We observed that there are about 2,048 jigs in this organization, farmers organization. We observed that there were 9 federations, and we observed that there was 1 confederation, a very structured activity, but that is not well known to us and to many. And that the activity is really very prosperous, but that they have a lot of setbacks in how they develop themselves and how they impact the economy and the market. So it became a major issue for us at the ACC to identify the sector, cotton industry, and work with the actors in the industry to see how we address the issues and how we work together to find solutions and provide solutions. Because the ACC, as you may know, is an African initiative to federate African businesses, to provide African adapted solutions to African problems, so that we see how we get a cut into the international market, where we as Africans, we can also talk. We can not only be consuming, we can also be actually exporting, and there can be that balance, because we cannot continue to be an economy that keeps signing international treaties, and we do not see how they impact our lives and how they change our lives over 50 years. So that is why the ACC said we are going to advocate for Africa's economic development. That Ghana is actually seriously on board. We have Nairobi, that federates the Africa Origin Textile Organization in Burkina Faso, where they organize CICOT. And CICOT was actually also to discuss the issues of what we do with our cotton, how we grow the potential so that it impacts the lives of many, and it's actually a successful activity. Now then, in the Central African region, we are organizing in Kribi, one of the major cities in the Gulf of the Guinea, the Cotton, Textile and Transformation Conference, and it is called FICOTA. So we're bringing together stakeholders, we're bringing together the actors, so that during this meeting, they can network, they can share their views, they can actually express themselves in the areas of challenges that they face, and we can be able to pick the weaknesses and the strengths, such that we can work with the policymakers to be able to craft the policies that will actually respond to the needs, and that the activity will really be prosperous for all. We were in Maroua, and we observed that the ndop, the fabric, which is the national fabric for Cameroon, is actually weaved from the north. I couldn't believe that there was such a huge traffic, that there's such huge traffic activity within the extreme north, the northern province, and the northwest region, the western region, and the rest of Cameroon. So can you imagine that we decide to put more investment, attract more capital into this activity through this conference, that we actually identify the areas of need and we show the limitations in the economy and in the actors' potential to be able to transform what they have as raw materials with the right adapted equipment. Then we will grow a very competitive economy. So we have 248 jigs. Of the 248 jigs, those are families. Say each family has 10 children. Can you multiply? That's about 2.5 million jobs. If we now increase the number of people that get facilities to be able to go there, and if we are able to provide to the local actors Can you imagine that we have the capacity to increase the number of actors in the industry, in the cotton transformation industry? Then you have people who are into knitting, into weaving, and into spinning. Then by the time you give them those jobs and they create other jobs, and many people have material to transform into clothing, into bags, into shoes, into everything. I mean, it's a huge activity. And we are also looking to see how the government of Cameroon can take advantage of the deep sea port. It has been a major concern for this government and a major concern for the executive of the government and the president of the republic to see how Kribi becomes one of the major seaports, the new town, the new city, because Douala was not created by our sovereign, it belongs to us, but it was created by our colonial masters. What have we transformed to be our own? And I think that seems to be a major preoccupation of the president, because 20 years ago, 25 years we've been talking about the deep sea port. It eventually becomes real. But how do we feed the port such that we do not continue to receive from the port and kill our economy? How do we use the port as a vector now to transport what we produce locally? We cannot be competitive if we don't have access to the material. And if we don't have access to the material and the equipment to be able to meet the standards of the world with the proper norms, because you can produce, but if your commodity is not within the norms and standards that the world will want to import or that they will want to use, you will not be able to sell. So you will continue to be a local market, and you continue, and even your own locals will not want to consume your goods because they will compare with what they receive as imported, and they will keep buying what is imported. So we are trying to work through this forum to bring the awareness to our institutions, our government, and our development partners to understand that Africa is more mature, that we are maturing in business, and that we cannot continue to be a sovereign political nation without being a sovereign economic nation. There is need for economic sovereignty. And if we do not have that, it may not happen in my lifetime, but I'm very convinced that once we start it, the process will not stop. So that's why we are working with this conference, working in the cotton industry, because it's a plant that is durable. It's a substantial product. It's something that can go on and on and on, in spite of the challenges that are embedded in the activity, but that we will not be losing if we actually lay focus on the activity, and the government comes in to support initiatives like the ACC, which is a private sector initiative, and the local producers who don't have the means, but they need the government backup. So that's why we'll be bringing in financial analysts, we'll be bringing in insurance, we'll be bringing in transitors, we'll be bringing in investors, we'll be bringing in equipment providers, so that everybody in the B2B networking sessions, they will be able to address their issues and their concerns, because it's all about the value chain in the cotton industry. We have to prove the interconnectivity and the connectivity. That is, I am only because you are. If I cannot prove that I'm only because you are, then it's useless for me to be. So we need to prove that, if we can call that vivre ensemble, economic vivre ensemble, which is the connectivity. I do not exist without you. And when I realize that I do not exist without you, then I become more aware and more sensitive, and I become more important even for me, because I believe that I'm not wasting my time. So it's that culture that we are trying to build, and it's that we are trying to, at the end of this conference, build such an awareness that government sees its role, that is very important as a policymaker, to make sure that the private sector gets what they need, and that the actors get what they need, and that companies like SICAM, Sodocoton, operate in their full potential. I may not be able to say the details here because I'm not one of the key actors on the ground, but I think if you go to them, they will tell you exactly what their problems are. And I think that at that meeting, they'll be able to tell us where their problems are. And some problems may be quite sensitive, that would need some other kind of diplomacy to be able to handle those issues, to be able to get to the next level. The textile industry is of such importance in the budgets in the world. The American economy developed through textile, cotton textile. They are hugest producers. China, same thing. India, same thing. How do we in Africa imagine that we can be producers of cotton and we keep selling our raw material and we do not transform the cotton locally? So we cannot live in an economy that we've observed that other economies, if we compare them, have survived through this textile industry and the value chain is solid. without looking into ways inwardly, because we have to be looking inwardly in a more auto-central approach to see how we empower ourselves. And the good thing is that we have most of these regional programs, regional organizations like SEAC, like OEF, which is international, like CEMAC, and the BAD, that all have a UNIDO, that have the cotton textile agenda and strategies that are put in place. So we have to just look into how we work with them to coordinate so that it becomes really fruitful and that the process is sustainable and it's working for everybody.